our lead story tonight, and this really is a historic order and a historic day, as a colonial-era law used by the British against freedom fighters like Mahatma Gandhi and Lokmanya Tilak has finally gone, in a sense, from the Indian Penal Code, as the Supreme Court put a stay on this law. The government has already said they will be looking at reframing and re-examining this law after the Prime Minister's intervention. However, the centre argued strongly in court today against the current sedition law being stayed and said that it can be done under supervision of senior officers and that FIRs should still be filed with these charges. The Supreme Court and the Chief Justice-led bench said no, and this law is now stayed. It's in abeyance, which means that no fresh FIRs can be filed with these charges and that those currently in jail can apply for bail.
India's Chief Justice N.V. Ramana's historic order just months before his retirement in September. The Chief Justice-led bench, along with Justices Suryakant and Hima Kohli, today ordered that the 162-year-old British-era sedition law used against Mahatma Gandhi and Lokmanya Tilak be stayed till the government, as said in its affidavit, re-examined the law. Importantly, all those currently in jail on sedition charges can apply for bail, and no fresh cases can be filed under this section 124A of the Indian Penal Code. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta argued vociferously in court today against the sedition law being stayed. He said that future sedition FIRs should be allowed, but after scrutiny by SP-level police officer or above. On pending cases, courts can be directed to expeditiously consider bail. Pending cases may involve other additional charges like terrorism, etc. Pending cases are already in courts. Let courts decide. Let us not undermine respect for the judiciary. The petitioners, including a retired general, the Editors Guild of India and TMC MP Mahua Moitra's lawyers, argued against the centre's stand, saying the law must be struck down by the court or put in abeyance. Unusually, the bench then got up and held private discussions for half an hour, returning with their historic order, staying a law which had been used mainly against opponents of governments, state and centre. With the Chief Justice saying, it is clear that the centre agrees that rigours of sedition are not in tune with current situation. The law was intended for when the country was under colonial law. The court has to maintain civil liberty and sovereignty of state, which is a difficult exercise. It will be appropriate not to use this provision of law till further re-examination is over. All pending proceedings to be kept in abeyance. Those who are already in jail for sedition cases can approach courts for bail. If any fresh cases are filed, concerned parties may approach court and court to expeditiously dispose those. The Chief Justice's strong order prompted a strong reaction from the Law Minister, who talked of a Lakshman Rekha that none of the organs of the state must cross.
We respect the court, we respect the independence of the court, but there are things which is called Lakshman Rekha. All the organs of the state must respect each other.
A clear-cut message has gone today to suppressors and subjugators of public opinion, of dissent.
Today's order was greeted with relief across the country, and the first impact of the Supreme Court's order came ironically against a Congress government when the Jodhpur bench of the Rajasthan High Court stayed the arrest of TV journalist Aman Chopra, saying no FIRs could now be registered under section 124A. But for some others already in jail, relief might not be so easy, like activist Varavar Rao and journalist Siddiq Kappan, who face additional charges like the stringent UAPA law.
Section 124A is not a standalone case. The present Bhima Koregaon case has at least 5 or 6 sections from UAPA.
ये तो एक अच्छा फैसला सुनाया है आज कोर्ट ने, लेकिन हमारा भाई के ऊपर जो है ना और भी बहुत सारे केस लगा हुआ है, यूएपीए लगा हुआ है, ईडी का केस भी लगा हुआ है, जो 8 तारीख को केस था पहले, अभी ये 13 तारीख को और है.
The Supreme Court has given a historic order today. While the centre has not given a clear timeline to the top court on how long it will take to re-examine the law, the next hearing of the case will take place in 3rd week of July, when the centre is supposed to update the court about the progress. With Harsha Kumari Singh in Jaipur and camera person Karan Patra in New Delhi, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Well, let's go across to our other lead story tonight, and that's what's currently happening in Sri Lanka. The country is still in crisis. In fact, there are warnings now that it will be in economic default if there's not a new government within the next 2 days. The army was out, armoured vehicles on the streets of Colombo. Also, President Rajapaksa emerges. His brother is in hiding currently at a naval base, but President Rajapaksa will address the nation tonight at 9 o'clock. There are some concerns the opposition is raising about whether there could be martial law because of the fact that there are orders now, also that the police can also shoot at who they see as violent protesters. Let's go across to Shija live, who's actually at the epicenter of the protest, where those against the Rajapaksas are out every night, despite the fact that it's a curfew, despite the fact that the police have been given permission to shoot at what they call violent protesters, Shija.
Well, we're reporting right outside, that is in Golface in Colombo, and this is the place where we have seen Gota Go Gama, a village that's been created by the anti-government protesters. But before going to the protesters, what I would like to show you here is the heavy police presence right here. There's a huge human chain that's been formed. This is just after the barricades that you're witnessing. It's not just the police, but also we understand the army has been called in. Now, this is the number of police personnel who have been stationed just a few meters away from here is Gotabaya Rajapaksa's official residence. Now, as a precautionary measure and to also ensure that the anti-government protesters, they don't breach these barricades, this is the kind of metal arrangement that's been done right here. From just this particular point where we are reporting from is just about a few meters to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's official residence. And we also understand the other arterial roads that is leading to his residence has been once again barricaded. There is heavy police personnel presence, and also just from the location that we are reporting from, we also see several water cannon vehicles that have been stationed at this point in time, and also various police vans. This is also because we understand the police, in case they find anyone violating the norms, this is especially to do with curfew, we also understand they can be taken into custody. So as a precautionary measure, this is exactly what Gotabaya Rajapaksa's instructions and the government has done at this point in time. Now, just right opposite to show you, to give you an idea about what's happening exactly right here. Now, this is the Golface roundabout. Over the last 2 months, this is the exact place which is the epicenter of the protests. We've been seeing over thousands of people, especially youngsters, working professionals. They are not affiliated to any parties. Now, they have been protesting. They have been demanding the resignation of Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Also, what you can see right here, just opposite to these barricades, and also human chain which has been formed by the armies and also the police. We see several posters that have been put up that reads, "Let's fight against corruption." Also talking about how the government has looted the money of people. Now, we have walked towards the people who are protesting right here. We're also giving you visuals from just this exact epicenter where we witnessed just a few days ago violent clashes between anti-government and pro-government protesters. Now, those are the very protesters who were injured, who were undergoing treatment at the various hospitals. They are back. They have once again erected the tents over here. Now, various protesters have come back. This is where they sleep. In fact, they spend their nights. They don't go home. And all that they say is they will continue to remain here until they see the resignation of Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Thank you very
How
much.
far will you go on to protect, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa?
As long as he's entitled for that with the constitution. Any past president is entitled for his security condition, depending on the threat level.
We, the three forces, are quite capable of defending our own nation. We have managed to liberate our own people and bring peace to our country about 12 years back. And such a capable professional outfit need not require any other nation to protect our land. So therefore, Sri Lankan forces are quite capable, proven beyond doubt that we are capable of defending any that type of aggression, and we will ensure that we will protect our people according to the Constitution.
We'll protect our people, but here also protecting ex-Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa till death, says the Defence Secretary. Let's see what President Rajapaksa, his brother, says tonight. But Shija is also reporting from what the people of Colombo and Sri Lanka are currently going through.
The Sri Lankan army patrolling the streets of Colombo. While an eerie calm descended across the island nation, protesters in some places shouted anti-government slogans while also feeding the hungry and providing medical assistance.
You can see my hands are all injured due to these problems.
So you were in the hospital?
Yeah, we was in hospital.
And you are back here?
Back here again to help and we are on the protest from the day of first to end. Don't know when it will be finished.
While on one hand we saw a young enthusiastic crowd taking part in the protests, several of them were seen waiting outside fuel stations.
Can you tell us how long have you been waiting in this queue?
4 hours, ma'am.
Tell you there is a shortage of fuel?
Yeah, ma'am, fuel is too much late. Maybe only one set is open here now.
Okay.
Other set is not open.
How many hours do you spend
at least more than about, we have to spend about 3.5 to 4 hours time.
Okay.
Yeah, to fill the petrol.
Over 100 police personnel stood guard a few meters away from President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's official residence. The police officers and the army formed a human chain behind these barricades, facing the posters that read, "The corrupt government should go." Here, the protesters who were injured by Rajapaksa's supporters set up tents as they continued to demand Gotabaya Rajapaksa's resignation.
You all have built this Gota Go Gama once again.
No, this is not the place. They were burnt in front of some of the places there, and we will not allow them to break this and fire. And some arts were burnt, and we rebuilt it. That was.
I vehemently condemn the state terrorism perpetrated by this government. However, I don't condone violence. Barbaric acts should not be repelled or replied by similar barbaric acts.
With the cabinet being resolved, this is after Mahinda Rajapaksa stepping down as the Prime Minister. The chorus is only growing bigger for the resignation of Gotabaya Rajapaksa. In fact, the country is sinking in multiple issues. We continue to see people standing in long queues outside fuel stations. There was no fuel today when we saw and reported on ground. We also saw several people waiting in long queues outside cooking gas centers. There is no cooking gas available. In fact, those who were injured right outside, this is the old parliament, during the clash between the anti-government and the pro-government protesters, they have come back to the protest site. They say nothing can stop them. They will continue this particular protest until Gotabaya Rajapaksa steps down. In Colombo, with camera person Govind Murthy, Shrija for NDTV.
Shrija, thanks so much for that live reporting from Colombo. But let's move to another huge headline, and that, of course, is the fact that it is still not a crime in India for a husband to rape his wife. The Delhi High Court's verdict, eagerly awaited today, was a split verdict with both judges having different opinions on whether marital rape should be a crime or not. That means that this will now go to the Supreme Court.
Is it a crime or not? Two judges of the Delhi High Court were divided today on whether sex forced upon a wife by the husband should be considered rape. The court was hearing a batch of pleas challenging protection given to men who have non-consensual intercourse with their wives from criminal prosecution. The judges did agree that the matter should be heard by the Supreme Court.
ये split verdict जो है, ये society का situation को दर्शाता है, क्योंकि ये मानना कि इस मुद्दे पे सिर्फ एक ही राय हो सकता है is not possible. क्या कोर्ट के पास एक पावर बन जाता है किसी चीज को क्रिमिनलाइज करने का? Before you come to the merits, do you have the power to enter this particular territory at all? जो legislative policy के अंदर आता है.
Justice Shagdar has said that the exception is unconstitutional under Articles 14, 15, 19 and 21. We've argued it a complete round once, we've argued a complete round a second time. Now there will be at least a third round, and we are ready for it because this is a blot on the face of this constitution. It is a blot on the face of this country.
The centre has avoided taking a firm stand on this before the High Court, from opposing the pleas in 2017 on jurisdictional issues to seeking more time in the name of wider consultations in February this year.
With split verdict from Delhi High Court, the case of criminalisation of marital rape now goes to Supreme Court as substantial questions on law are involved. With camera person Prem Singh, this is Arvind Gunasekar for NDTV.
Well, a quick look at other news. Important retail inflation figures for April will be out tomorrow. Meanwhile, markets declined for the fourth straight session today. So the Sensex sliding 276 points, ending well below 55,000 at just above 54,000. The Nifty also falling by 72 points. IT shares declined the most today. The spotlight, as we said, on April retail inflation data tomorrow. And range-bound trade for the rupee today, which ended at 77 rupees 23 paise to the dollar, so up slightly but not much of a change. Meanwhile, some good news is coming for farmers with a huge demand for wheat exports with the current situation in Ukraine and Russia. So farmers in Madhya Pradesh are now getting as much as 25% more than they normally do, as private traders are heading to Madhya Pradesh as a wheat bowl.
Wheat farmers in Madhya Pradesh are pleased. They're getting paid as much as 25% more than the government guaranteed price, or MSP. Jagdish Meena came to Bhopal with 3 trolleys of wheat and got 105 rupees per quintal more than the MSP. That too paid immediately after the auction.
यहाँ नगद पैसा पेमेंट मिल रहा है, इधर तुलवाओ इधर पेमेंट पूरा। इस बार दिक्कत नहीं, पिछली बार थी दिक्कत जब पार्टीजेस करते थे, इस बार कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। कुछ व्यक्तिगत दिक्कतें कम होंगी इस बार, रेट भी अच्छा मिला है। लगभग।
Other farmers like Narmada Prasad Ahirwar have got more. 1 trolley of wheat he got 2,213 per quintal against 2,015 from the MSP. Traders are saying they're witnessing a nearly 3-fold rise in arrivals, and they are happy too, as MP has scaled down license fee from 20,000 to 1,000 and the security deposit of 3 lakh rupees has been waived.
इस बार एक्सपोर्ट बहुत अच्छा हो रहा है, तो हमारे व्यापारी भी एक्सपोर्टरों को दे रहे हैं। मध्य प्रदेश शासन ने भी उसमें एक्सपोर्टरों को कृषि टैक्स की भी छूट दी है, कि वो चाहें क्लेम कर सकते हैं रिफंड का।
But most of the wheat is being bought by traders for export because of the shortage, with Russia and Ukraine, both major wheat exporters, unable to do so because of the war. Almost 5 lakh tons of wheat from MP has reached the ports for export. This is almost 3 times last year. The government has set a target to export 20 lakh metric tons of wheat. It says it has enough, 150 lakh tons in stock against a need of 30 lakh. This year, it is likely to procure only about 40 to 45 lakh tons, down to 2/3 at least.
इस समय मध्य प्रदेश का गेहूं धूम मचा रहा है, पूरी दुनिया में पता है कि नहीं। कनाडा में, अमेरिका में, इंग्लैंड में एमटीवी सरकारी खरीदी कम हो रही कि नहीं हो रही। इसका मतलब यह है कि हम खरीद नहीं करना चाहते। इसका मतलब यह है कि अच्छे दाम मिले ताकि पूरी दुनिया मध्य प्रदेश का गेहूं खाए।
Madhya Pradesh is exporting wheat to countries like Bangladesh, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, UAE, Vietnam, Egypt, Philippines, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, South Africa and Mozambique. But there are some growing concerns on whether exporting too much, especially when the heat wave has reduced production, will affect India's buffer stocks.
Farmers in MP are not much affected because of the heat wave as in Punjab or Haryana, because farmers here harvest the wheat crop around mid-March, and that's why the production has also largely remained unaffected. In Bhopal, with camera person Rizwan Khan, Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
In other news, severe cyclonic storm Asani has lost much of its speed and fury. It's weakening into a depression, but it brought heavy rain to the Andhra coast. Exams were cancelled today and flights to and fro Visakhapatnam. But also what appeared was a mysterious gold-coloured chariot washed ashore off the Andhra coast. So there's a lot of curiosity there. Heavy winds and, as we said, heavy rain. But there hasn't been that much destruction, and luckily so far no reports of any major loss of life. Well, a quick look at international news. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif flew to London along with senior leaders and key cabinet ministers to meet his brother, ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who's also the head of the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, in London. They will be discussing election strategy and reforms as well as the economy and IMF conditions. This as the exiled ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is supposed to be arriving back in Pakistan soon. So clearly a Sharif and Sharif combination in charge of Pakistan now.